I will. Hello.
Hello there.
Mayor, is that you? Kathleen, I see you too.
Yep.
Uh-oh, am I on screen? I better look
No,
alive.
I don't see you.
Oh, all right.
You gotta hit the button.
Got it.
Do you want us on video or do you want us just audio?
Video is fine, just fine. I'm going to try to keep the video to just the board members and presenters.
Okay.
Good thing I brushed my hair.
Got out of your jammies, huh, Kathleen?
Yes, I did.
Kathleen, you may want to either close the shades behind you or
Oh, good
Yep,
point.
I see it. Okay.
so you're not backlit.
It's my best character, though.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. A halo around you, Kathleen.
That's exactly right.
Looks very presidential, Kathleen.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. Kim, you have your lighting just right.
Well, it's because I have my curtains open in front of me.
Maybe that's what
I learned a lesson yesterday. I did a Skype on my phone with, who was it, KAL last night. And the lighting wasn't terrible, but I held the camera and then they put on the governor first for like 15 minutes. And my hand, by the time it was time for me to be on the air, my hand was shaking so bad that the whole thing, it was just jiggling. So lesson learned. I forgot the governor can talk long.
Good isometrics, though.
Oh my God. I failed the test.
Hi, Kayla. I can see you.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm not. I don't think I. Oh, my phone just died. No, do you want to text him? Also trying to get this PowerPoint arranged.
Hi, it's RT. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, it's Kathleen. I can hear you.
Okay, so my Zoom is not working, but I am on the phone. So I will do my best. I don't have any, I was supposedly, is Cody on the phone?
I'm here, Chair Ryback.
Oh, hey, Cody.
Hi.
Hi,
So,
glad you made it.
Hey. Yep. So what I've got is the screen that says, uh-oh, you seem to be in the wrong place. It's coming up on both my computer and my iPad and my phone. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm going to just click on join a meeting here.
And
If not, I can just do this.
Lisa has just sent you the meeting ID code as well.
Could you read that to me?
Yes. It is 671-019-039.
Oh, cool. All right. Good. Come on.
Jim, can you hear us? He's looking frustrated. Can somebody help Jim? It looks like he's having trouble.
Jim Campbell, can you wave if you hear me?
Jim Beer is now on the location.
Jim Campbell is calling me, but somebody might want to call him. Lisa, do you think we want to open the window here just so people who are there will know that we're working on it? Can you hear me?
Yep, RT. Oh, there we are. Let me just go check in the other room. I'm trying to keep my distance here.
Good morning, Jim. How are you doing?
Probably should have public health.
Hi there, Paul.
Hey, guys.
Jim, you look like the little guy peeking over the fence. Can't remember what that was called. Kilroy or something.
Kilroy. That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah, I can't remember why Kilroy was everywhere, but he was. Mayor, it looks like you're in your office.
I am. I
You
had
guys-
contracts to sign.
Yeah, yeah. Who's still in and who's not?
I think we have two other people in our department here. Michonne working, taking every other turns week, Lisa and Michonne for frontline and that, but the building's locked. It's just mostly answering the phone and that sort of thing. And then HR has, every department has like one or two people. Everybody else is remote.
Wow.
It's like it's echoing in the halls.
I was talking to the CEO of MIA, the Institute of Art, and there are three of them there. So if you can imagine the Institute of Art walks through these huge halls. I mean, hey, it's better than walking through a warehouse, but still, it's like, wow.
Yeah. I ran over the warming center yesterday. That was, I don't know if you've heard, but the Civic Center night center for all the homeless.
Wow,
And
wonderful.
they're moving some, the county's working to move some into apartments and hotels now that we've moved into kind of stay at home. But the Civic Center I dropped over yesterday, and boy, were they appreciative. Let me tell you, the couple that I know well, they're all keeping their 6 feet distance, except for the ones that go out and have a cigarette. But they're a little closer than 6 feet when they're out there. But everybody else inside it's worked really well. So fingers
That's
crossed.
wonderful.
Yeah.
That is really great. Those of you who are on, just
Jim? Yeah, I can't tell. Jim, can you hear yet?
Not you.
Oh, Jim Beer. Jim Campbell's having trouble, I think.
But Jim Beer, you're on. Can I just do a quick?
I can hear you now.
I'm here.
Poll of who's on here. Is that Commissioner Beer I hear?
That's right. Cody's trying to set me up so I can see everybody, but that's not necessary. It looks like he's got me under control.
Well, we
I mean,
want
under
to have your
control
face, Jim.
to
There
the
you go.
extent that, can you see
All right.
me?
Yes, we can, in all your
All right.
glory.
Oh, perfect.
We can see you, but we can't see your mouth. So just,
Oh, I don't, I can't see myself. How's that?
that's good. That's
Oh,
really
you're,
See you, Jim.
That's better.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
I see Patrick.
Hi, everyone.
So Paul Williams, I don't have down here.
Hi, Jim.
I'm on.
Yep.
Oh, Paul, excellent. Okay, good.
Drive the slides.
Okay. Lisa, give us a sense of when you think we can start.
We're loading the slides on a different machine
Okay.
right now.
Okay,
Because,
so why don't we just say we'll start at 9:42, or in about 5 minutes. So just take your time, get situated, everybody get comfortable. If you need a quick break, take it, and we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Mayor, how's things going? What do you hear these days?
We're regarding what? There's a lot going on.
Oh, no kidding. I think we're doing the best that we can under the circumstances, the
Yeah.
county and the city. I don't think there's anything, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on, but I think we're doing well.
Well, I'll be seeing if we can't hook us up with Mayo and some others once or twice a day moving ahead, so that we're all knowing, just on a short phone call or something, so that we all know what's going on. Governmental agency and business, so we all are on the same page. But otherwise, I think the warming shelter, you guys, I was telling RT, that's really fallen into place nicely.
Yeah, and I think, our fallback position is, I think we've actually got some people in hotel rooms right now.
Yep.
I don't know, $65 or 62.
Yep.
I can't remember what it is, but.
Yep, meals being delivered.
Oh, he's turning me. Cody's turning me again.
Cody, we're all going to get sick watching you go upside down.
Feeling nauseous there.
Woo.
I'm
going to buy Cody some glasses.
Oh, I appreciate that, Jim.
I thought only old people needed readers.
Oh, no.
I sure do. I haven't figured out with these meetings yet how the camera decides what to pick up or not, but Paul, what are you drinking?
What am I drinking? Careful.
Yeah. Record.
That's the second most dangerous question to ask on these things. The most dangerous is, are you wearing pants? Which I think is I'm
Just
actually
don't stand up all of a sudden.
Sweatpants.
Got a bad mental picture.
Yeah. I'm out of sweatpants for the first time. I'm wearing big boy pants, and I'm really impressive with my slow recovery back.
Oh, it is something.
You look like
Business on the
you're,
top
Paul,
party
you
of
look
the
like you're at a
holiday.
cabin.
Well, you know what? I actually have, we've got this wonderful second floor sunroom that we had one of those old 1970s rounded solariums
Yep.
that was just leaking like a sieve for 10 years. And we finally got it replaced a couple years ago. And it's beautiful. I mean, it just kind of sits up in the trees. And so it's actually quite nice.
Oh, that's
Nice.
great. Sun matters a lot these days.
Oh, it sure does.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jim Campbell. How are you?
Well, I finally got this thing to work, I think.
You did.
Excellent. Yeah, there you are.
Hallelujah.
Well, you've had to call in for so many of our meetings, Jim. Now we're all on the same page here, so that's good. Let's started. Couple things for. I understand there are about 40 or so folks on the line, which is great. Just so everyone's grounded in what we're doing here is that due to the pandemic emergency declaration that the governor issued, this is a remote meeting. We haven't done this before, but what is interesting is that in the pandemic, we made a virtual meeting. Is that true? Am I quoting you right,
Mr.
Kathleen?
Chair, that's correct.
Yeah, which is good foresight on there. And I really appreciate everybody being flexible on this very much so. Couple just ground rules as we're starting. Members of the public, we are really excited to have you. As you know, we've had a real value of having input and having public input at every one of our meetings. This is the first one we have not, and we apologize for that. We want to look for, if this goes on for a while, we want to look for ways.
I lost your voice.
Yep, I
RT.
lost RT as well.
I did as well.
I didn't touch anything.
There he is.
But now I'm at the but part. Feel really free to just yell, "Hey, RT!" if you are that. I obviously can't see your hands. If you don't see me calling on, just call out, and then I'll tell you. I'll put you in line or something. And so we'll just do our best to navigate through that. Okay, so with that, let's let the meeting begin here, and I'm going to call the roll, and I'm going to have to call the roll after every action. I think, as I understand from Kathleen again, that every action we take has to have an actual roll call. So let's practice here. Here's our first one to call the meeting to order. Vice Chair Norton.
Present.
Chair Beer.
Here.
Jim Beer.
Here.
Oh, good. Okay. I am here. RT Ryback. Okay. That was really well done, folks. We're going to do it a few more times today, but I think we are cruising through that. Let's approve the minutes of the March 21st meeting. Is there a motion to?
Sorry.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you very much. Vice. Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye. Vice Chair Norton.
Aye.
Secretary Williams.
Aye.
Treasurer Beer.
Aye.
Chair Ryback says yes, and the motion passes. Okay, good.
Mr. Chair,
No, we're actually-
I didn't catch who
Go
I
ahead.
caught who made the motion, but who seconded it?
Here.
I heard Mayor.
Got it. Okay, thank
Commissioner
you.
Beer. Yeah. Okay, so now we're moving into the meat of this. So we obviously altered this agenda a little bit to put this first item on it. It's the item that obviously is on all of our minds, and it's what is our role in serving the community during this horrible tragedy we're in the middle of. What I think is especially important is for us to hear first from the local official and the commissioner talking about what the city and the county are doing. And if you would be good enough to not only tell us what, say, the city or the county is doing, but what else you're hearing. I think the thing we want to do is to get a sense of map, gap, and role. What's out there? What's the gap? And what should our role be in doing that? So Mayor Norton, I wonder if you would be good enough to start and just give us, if you wouldn't mind, a lay of the land on what's happening out there. It'll help set the context for our work.
Sure. So, most people know this, but the city had declared an emergency a week ago, and it was ratified last Monday. We have internally in the city set up 3 teams, one to deal with homelessness, one to deal with economic stability, and one to deal with kind of food and basic needs. Those have been working collaboratively with many of our partners. The economic stability one, which is probably of most interest to this group, has consisted of partnerships with VI.April, the Rochester Area Chamber of Commerce, the Rochester Area Downtown Alliance, and DMC. We have taken input from area businesses as well. The City Council designated $250,000 in one fund and $100,000 in another for us to deploy out to offer support to our area businesses and residents. And these teams, the economic stability team has been working. We've already stood up a 0 to low interest, I'm not sure exactly, small business loan. And of course, it's posted everywhere out there already. They posted the application and made it as simple as possible. So I think from the DMC perspective, from our internal group talking as a city, as we see DMC as a partner in helping us make these decisions, but that we really want to stay the course on the projects and the direction we're going now, knowing that they can make some internal to help support community stability and resiliency, but that we really want and hope that the DMC initiative can be part of the economic recovery that we're going to need in the next months and years. So I'm happy to answer questions, but that's just a quick overview.
Sure, that's really helpful. Commissioner Bear?
We've had an emergency declaration. We met via Skype. We're doing our meetings right now via Skype. We've worked with a clinic and Olmsted Medical to open a testing facility out at Graham Park, otherwise known as the Fairgrounds. That seems to be going well. We had a dry run on Saturday and Sunday. I think we've served over 200 people at that drive up. Mayo was getting a little overwhelmed at their clinics, and it's been working pretty well. Our public health people are monitoring the cases that we have right now. Let's see, we're working with the city, with Mayor Norton with the homeless situation. We've got some of the people over at the Civic Center, and then we've got other people that we're putting into hotel rooms right now, and we're paying the bill for that. I'd like $6 tonight or something like that, but we have to work with them to make sure that we try and keep this thing contained. Other than that, we're working with the school districts, trying to deliver meals to kids and people that need the meals. That's kind of just, we're doing a lot of things, but those are just the things off the top of my head that I can think of right now. So it's, our community's working pretty well together. I think everybody's taking this seriously, which is good, because we just, as the governor said, we just got to get that curve to go out 6 weeks or 10 weeks or so that we can keep the ICU beds and all of the healthcare system going.
Sure. Do you mind if we asked a couple of questions and members just to get a lay of the land? One that I had is on the issue of workforce. It's one that's changing very quickly. The state has all sorts of different tools coming down. It's we're just trying to sort it out at the foundation. I'm sure you guys are too. Is there any thinking about somewhat longer term? Obviously nobody knows exactly what to do, but who's going to be driving that, and whether that, since we've talked about workforce as one of our areas, whether that's a place that we are needed or not?
Well, I can just say that.
Go ahead,
oh,
Mayor.
sorry. Okay, I would just say from the city's perspective, we have this team in place that will stay in place as long as it needs to, because we see ourselves as not just the stability now, but for, and building the resiliency now as much as we can, but it will be for the long term. And we have been actually Patrick Sieb reminded me that I have this network, which I had been using, but I hadn't been forwarding some of the ideas, and I don't want to forward them all because it will overwhelm people, but some of the communities around the country that already have put some things in place, we can utilize their ideas too, because, you know, we know that the coasts have been hit first, and they've already, they're working through this a few weeks ahead of us. So I've been forwarding those ideas on to that team too, and we can start implementing more of them. But I think we need to all be at the table and be ready. I do think there's some discussion, and I don't know if this is the right time or not, but you know, I've been fielding a lot of calls on from businesses worried, and there's this kind of balance between because everything's shut down now, if we could move some of those activities a little faster that are going to be going on, like some of the heart of the city, if we could move those along soon while nobody's downtown anyway, it may disrupt businesses for a shorter period of time and a little bit less later. But people, I will just say, people are worried about construction and the summer, which does have to do with the DMC, and I know they're very aware of this. And but I fielded several calls late last night that people are they're a little nervous, and so anything we can do to help put as many people to work as we can and keep what workforce, and construction is one of those areas that's allowed to continue. Well, if we can capitalize on that, I think all the better, as long as we don't hurt businesses that are open.
Chair Rybeck, Paul Williams here. Ask a question.
Yes.
So just to the extent that we have a sense of it, Mayor or Commissioner Beard, do we know what percentage of the Rochester economy is considered kind of retail, services, hospitality?
Boy, I don't, not off the top of my head. Maybe the mayor does, but I think, you know, that'd be a question for Kathleen Harrington at the chamber. I couldn't give you a good answer.
I know we have a lot of small businesses, and I don't know if Lisa or Patrick have collected that data, you know, in the downtown area, but maybe not citywide. I don't know if they want to weigh in. They might be better able to.
Paul, this is Lisa. We do have some of that data. I don't have it with me today, but we can get you a sense of what we're talking about, particularly in the downtown area. But your question was about retail and hospitality.
Yeah, and I mean, those are just the sectors of the economy that are just getting hammered here right away, and the dislocation there, even longer term, is going to be profound. So that is an area, I think, in terms of just data and analysis, in partnership with the city and the chambers and the Downtown Alliance, I think it's called, that may be an area where we can accelerate our efforts and use some of our resources to just kind of quickly help folks in the community get a sense of job loss and how long it's going to take for those entities to recover. So I'm thrilled, and for our work at PPL, actually having that construction continue is really important, but we're looking at actually job losses and people who live in our housing, for example. And that is one of the areas, the loss, unpaid rent for workforce, for worker bees, is going to be a big deal due to job losses of service sector employees.
And Paul, I would say I'm trying to set up a fund with some of our nonprofits. I know they've done one for the United Way and the Rochester Area Foundation have already joined together for a fund for nonprofits, but I'm looking to see if we can set up some sort of grant fund for the very people you're talking about who are laid off, maybe for a number, well, now we know through May 4th, and are going to have a hard time meeting those rents and daily function, or, you know, daily bills. So we are, and the food thing, I feel really comfortable that we're going to be able to do that through Channel 1. The food group that I mentioned, the subgroup, has done tons of work. The county's involved in that too. They've been phenomenal, but the rents and utilities won't be cut off, and water, so that's taken care of, but the rents are really a concern. So I'm looking to try to get a fund set up for that, and I think we can all be a part. And maybe Jim Beer to mention the hotel industry, as you mentioned, they reached out to me almost from day one saying, we're down to 15 and 30% capacity, and the county's using hotels. I don't know, Jim, do you want to talk about with the homeless? There's a number that have rent now.
Well, this thing's going to have a lot of tails, and we're using the hotels, but it's just a drop in the bucket really for these homeless people. I mean, it helps, that helps a little bit, but it won't make a big difference. We're right now, I mean, as a county, we're trying to gather some of this data because with the hospitality, I mean, that's a big deal here in Rochester, Minnesota with the Mayo Clinic. And with the hotel occupancy down and then all the bars and restaurants closed till at least May 1st, who knows, the workers are going to struggle. A lot of these places, as you know, operate on pretty thin margins, and they got to pay their landlord rent, or they got to pay their bank, to buy the property. So I think we've got to get through this period. I think generally we haven't heard too many horror stories where somebody's trying to hammer if people can't pay their rent. Most of the landlords are willing to work with them. I'm hoping that most of the banks are willing to work with them. Like the mayor said, right now our immediate need is food and shelter. And I think with the shelter, they'll be okay, at least for a while, until we figure out this rent situation. And then the food, we've got a great resource with Channel 1. They're very active, and I think they'll be able to keep things going that way. It's just, we've got to get through this surge, and then there's going to be a lot of needs, and we just have to figure it out as we go. It's new territory for me, I know that.
So far in this conversation, I've heard us focusing on three areas. One is small business, housing, hotel. Those are two others. Workforce is one. Mayor Norton raised this really interesting question of should we actually accelerate the Heart of the City project. Before we sort of narrow that a little bit, I wonder if I could pull in Lisa and Kathleen here too, so that we can get a sense of what tools do we actually have. And think about this is that, I want to understand exactly what we can spend it on. We have this term infrastructure that we use. How does all of this work? And if asked to engage in any of those, we obviously, Heart of the City is one that we control. The others, we would be supportive to what's happening in the local community. But what tools or flexibility do we have?
Mr. Chair, do you want me to start?
Yeah, please.
The statute, although you can complain about the statute being vaguely written a lot, the statute does lay out a definition for what the DMC initiative can spend money on. First of all, it has to be spent within the district. Secondly, the DMCC board has to find that it is a public infrastructure project. The public infrastructure project definition is mostly, it's all about economic development for starters. From that definition, the DMCC and the city approved the development plan, which has several sectors that kind of all drive towards economic development. It seems to me that in order to comply with the statute, we have to find that it is a public infrastructure project, which frankly is mostly construction, demolition, acquisition, that kind of thing. There is some, I think, a little bit of flexibility with respect to how we define job creation, et cetera. But for the most part, I would suggest that the statute limits us in terms of the hard costs and finding that something is public infrastructure. Again, all under the umbrella of economic development.
What I think we need to do is to be ready to be asked, if asked. So we don't know where this is going to go. This has to be led, in my mind, by people at the local level, the city and the county. but also we need to be in a position to be as spry as possible. So one of the things that's, I think, important about that is to understand this infrastructure issue. We've used our dollars to support hotels by using infrastructure, as I understand it. So for instance, we built a parking ramp that helped a hotel. We didn't put it into the hotel, we put it into the public infrastructure. Am I right on that?
That's, Mr. Chair, that's correct. The DMCC and the city approved the construction of a parking ramp next to a hotel under the umbrella of economic development again, but it was deemed to be public infrastructure.
So we've never really tested this question on whether we can engage in, for instance, small business, any of those things that we're talking about. I wonder if we could during this period of time while we are standing ready to do something, is to get more detail on that. I happened to be talking to Commissioner Grove from DEED last night about another issue, and I said, you know, we don't know what the needs are of DMC, but we may want to come back to you and just talk about whether we can partner to be helpful if asked. Just left it pretty broad like that, but I'm intrigued by whether we could seek an understanding of whether the public infrastructure of the small businesses of the part of our geography we're in can be part of public infrastructure, and whether we could, when the mayor was mentioning the fund the city had started, could we participate in that or not? I don't think we know right now. Am I right?
Mr.
It's needed.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I would just say, or are we, you know, with the federal funds coming through and state coming through, you know, is that the most need? And I think that we just have to wait and see. And I know the DMC has some ideas about some things they can do to help. And I think maybe you're going to let them present. It looks like I see slides up of some of the material. So I wondered if they were going to do their thing too, or?
Well, actually, the idea was first for us to have a conversation and do some level setting on this.
Okay.
So for instance, Mayor, let's say there's a federal program that or a state program that you're gonna connect to a small business that happens to be part of what we would define as part of our goal. Can our tools be flexible enough that if that takes 8 months to arrive, that we could fill in gap funding for the first 7? You know, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think we know what we're going to need, but I do think
we don't know. And is the state going to supplement or augment the federal, and is our local that we do have set up already, and we know it's not enough at this point, and we're re-looking at our budget, but those things should come first, I think. And then we'll see at that point, and I think there'll be a time where, you know, we could come back. I don't want to jump the gun. I would, you know, I guess I'm hoping that we can pick up the pace here fairly soon and keep the economy moving with what's already in play, if it's possible. And you know, maybe they can answer that.
Sure, right back.
Yeah, I get that. I just to make my point clear on this, the point I'm making is that when or if we are asked, we should be absolutely current about what we can do, and recognizing that in this moment, the state is providing a great deal of flexibility in lots of places. We should figure out how far the state can go on that when the legislature is in session, which they may have one session in April or they may not, or if they're not in session. So I'm arguing to get the information that we need to be able to be knowledgeable and helpful in that conversation. Go ahead, Lisa.
Chair Ryback and Executive Committee, we definitely can work with Kathleen Lamb to explore all of those options. And we also have a list of things that we wanted to share with you at the right time. Chair Ryback, let me know where we believe will be most impactful immediately and long term. And I think there's some powerful redirection that we can do on our end to be as impactful as we want while we're exploring those other areas as well.
I think it's appropriate to do that now. I think this is what we want to get out of it.
I agree.
That would be great. So on the slide, you'll see a couple of comments. One, like everyone, we are actually assessing our work as well and opportunities to make a difference, to assist, to sustain, to advance as quickly and efficiently as we can. We are also partners to some of the groups Mayor Norton has been mentioning, and I think that's a very powerful collaboration coming together to do exactly what's needed immediately. And we're creating a framework of Chair Ryback also have the most impact. And it's basically it's in our scope for now, I believe. So let me share a couple of things. We feel like the most impact that we can make today and in the future is jobs. Number one is to accelerate job creation. And I'll have Patrick talk about a few examples of that in a moment. But it's jobs and programs, advancing them or accelerating them, that's truly going to make a difference for us and for this community. The second one we'll talk about is keeping our foot on the gas. I mean, we understand that there's immediate needs and we understand that there's long-term needs, and how we are built, DMC, is to grow and sustain Rochester's economy. That's the core to the success of DMC and to Rochester's future. So there are some basic things that we are doing that sometimes take years before something lands in this community in terms of new business, new jobs, and we need to keep our foot on the gas on that front. And the third, Mayor Norton mentioned it, and so did you, Chair Ryback, is the economic recovery and resilience. We will emerge from this crisis. We know that. And today we need to prepare for that. So today we need to prepare by being deliberate and being ready with a recovery and resiliency strategy. And we have some skill sets and some interest in that area as well, to partner with others so that we can carry us forward through the post-crisis. Be ready, proactive on that front. Chair Ryback asked us to put this together, to share with you right now. I'll turn this over to Patrick, who we've worked with our team to give you a sense of a framework in terms of the impact we think we can create.
Thank you, Lisa, and members of the executive committee. This is Patrick Sieb, and within the framework that Lisa just described, I want to walk through some details to put a little more color to what she described. But I want to begin by saying, and I want to reflect on what Paul Williams asked about the percentage of hospitality. When the governor made his announcement yesterday of stay in place and articulated the number of businesses and industries and work that will continue, they made clear that in fact more than 75% of the economy is in the essential work business. And so that is not to diminish the 25% who are going to be compromised during this economic coma that we're entering. In Rochester's case, of course, healthcare is the largest industry, and of course, it's part of the essential industry, and the entire pipeline of that healthcare industry is part of the essential jobs. So we are fortunate to be home to Mayo and home to the services it provides. Having said that, there is a lot of pain in this community because we are also a hospitality community. And just looking at the job count in Rochester, I just received an email from Aaron Parrish. Probably 10% of the jobs in the Rochester area are directly in the hospitality industry. And so, and you can imagine the pain that community is suffering during this immediate shutdown. So we are hypersensitive to the consequences that people are facing immediately. And so having said that, this framework that Lisa talked about reflects both how we're structured and also the immediate crisis in front of us. So with that, let me just walk through a few things. So we have, the first is to accelerate job creation. So we know that while some industries are being asked to postpone their work at the moment, there are some things that can continue, and in fact, continue in a way that perhaps can add to job opportunities. So there is a question on the table: should we be fast tracking some of the capital projects that are already in the queue, like Heart of the City, Discovery Square 2, Discovery Walk and transportation as some examples that have been in the pipeline, that we have been doing all of the front end work and are shovel ready. This is work that can continue during the stay in place and for the foreseeable future. These are projects that will employ plumbers and electricians and bricklayers and labor that are important to the economy and important to maintaining stability to that workforce. On top of that, we know that everybody is trying to figure out how to have what I would call a COVID-19 construction safety protocol. So those workers need to be safe as well. And we are working with the local builders community, Mayo Clinic and others to develop what we call evidence-based COVID-19 construction safety protocols. Therefore, not only can that work continue, but worker safety can be addressed. And we think this protocol can help serve not only Rochester, but also can become a protocol used elsewhere in the state. And then finally, with respect to this, we're implementing what we call hyper-local bidding strategies. And so we are making every effort to break apart the bidding packages for projects so that local community members can bid on portions of the contracts. So imagine in a construction site, you need a fence installer, or you need wayfinding signage, or you need protective lighting or enhanced lighting. I mean, these are things that people who are perhaps in the event industry could reposition their work so that they could be participating in that kind of work on these projects, meaning really finding ways that our construction work can stay local and people can pivot their work to be to participate in that work. I will pause here, and the next is keeping the foot on the gas, but before I go ahead, I thought maybe I should just pause on this one.
Good, I'm gonna open it up. I wanted to say also, by the way, member Mike Doherty has joined us, and so we're really happy that you're also on the phone. Both he and member Jim Campbell are not on the executive committee. This is a member of the executive committee, so I won't be calling their name when we call their roll, but it's extremely appreciated that you joined us, because I think we all have to get this now together. That was really a great presentation. Can I open up for comments? Well, let me start with one while we're waiting for that. One of the things that Mayor North, oh, I'm sorry, did I hear you, Member Williams?
Paul Williams here. So just, you know, you immediately kind of go to, I think it's fantastic to accelerate our projects to the extent that we can, keep the foot on the gas there. Just curious, and again, I don't know, this may be kind of private information, but have we heard from any of our partners, you know, who were kind of in the queue on some of these projects as to whether they're nervous about moving forward, just given, you know, both the short-term economic climate and what is likely to be a difficult economic climate in the year to come?
Yes, I can comment on that. Lisa can as well. We are staying in close contact with our developer partners and are current with their thinking and their activity. And they, of course, are sensitive to what's going on and understand the impact on the market. In the case of Discovery Square 2, of course, it is actually aimed at the kind of industries that will continue to grow and prosper in the future, with the idea of that building serving more of a technology, digital approach to healthcare. So I think obviously people are very, very concerned and sensitive and paying attention to the markets, but they're not letting up.
Can I pick up on a question that the mayor referenced earlier about this perhaps is a good time, actually, especially with Heart in the City, where we were so worried about disruption. This may actually be a good time on it. I mean, my experience in 2008 and 9 is when the economy collapsed. The one upside is that we got much better deals with our construction partners, both in time and money, than we did before. So I know many construction projects are being canceled. And we don't need to get into all this right now, the specifics of it, but I do think we should be looking for opportunities to say to a construction company that may have lost a bunch of different ones, go faster on this one and go more intensely so we can be back open once the economy starts growing again. And Pam Wheelock raised with me the concern that, gee, we want to be construction coming forward. So that's the flip side of this. But I do think we we're almost certainly going to get better deals on our bids on this. Other thoughts on this?
Well, RT, I would just say, you know, I have had calls from a couple businesses, as I'm sure Lisa and Patrick have too, and they are concerned with, and have been concerned with, the construction going on downtown, period. And I think if accommodations are made, and I know the team, the developers, and Lisa and Patrick are very aware of this, anything we can do, whether, you know, if we can accelerate it and get done earlier, they'd love it. I think the construction just over the time period, as you well know from what happened even with the light rail down, you know, in St. Paul, yeah, Minneapolis, it affects all those businesses, and the quicker it can get done, and the quicker we can, not only the quicker we can get done, but the care we use in making sure that they can be accessible throughout the process as best we can, knowing how hard this will be, the better. So I think we have to weigh both of those things. I think from some, they said they had difficult last year because of construction downtown, and they weren't looking forward to 2 years. And so I think if it could be done quicker and open their doors back up and the street back up to business sooner rather than later, would be a good thing.
Can I ask Paul, who was on the front lines of that in St. Paul, last meeting, as I recall, you were pretty positive, I certainly was, about the plan that Patrick presented about how we were going to work with businesses during construction, where we already saw a challenge. Do you think that's on the right track? Were there things on that we should be especially mindful of, considering now we're putting a whole economic tailspin in the middle of all of that?
Well, I do think it is on the right track. Those were the right strategies. You know, all the creative ideas around joint marketing and, you know, flexible lending to small businesses to stay open, potential. I mean, there were a lot of strategies, and I think Patrick and the DMC folks were well aware of those. I do think that obviously this economic, you know, set of, you know, economy is going to add a layer of complexity to it that will make it even harder. So again, to the extent that there are possible ways that we can get involved in small business support or support others who are doing that work, the city and others, I think obviously will be critical. So I don't, there's no magic bullets in there, but it did feel like it was on the right track. And again, if we can, as the mayor suggested, if we can accelerate the construction, I think that would obviously be a huge help.
Sure, right.
Can we take a couple more questions, or go ahead, Lisa?
Just one comment on the business forward strategy, which is in one of our next slides. You're exactly right. We have been speaking with various industries on how can we accelerate this, and everything from different types of equipment that we could get in to make things move faster, so that it's not going to take us 5 months, rather it might take us 5 weeks. We're trying to accelerate it as quickly as we can, not just to keep jobs going, which is really important, but to be ready so that when we emerge from this, these stores will open or new stores will come in and they will have the construction completed rather than opening in the middle of construction. So I think it could be very powerful for us.
Thank you for that subtle reference to next slides, Lisa, because it reminds me that I let this conversation go without letting you finish the presentation. So Patrick,
right,
why don't you finish it off here
for us? 2 slides here.
Okay.
Patrick, are you on mute?
Sorry about that. Sorry about that. If I was on video, you would have seen Cody's head again.
Oh, nothing wrong with that, but thank you for sharing.
So, Cody, can I make sure the next slide is up? So, are we ready to go to the next topic then, which is the what we call keeping, in plain speak, keeping our foot on the gas?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will. I'm not sure which slide is showing, so I apologize. But it doesn't
Accurate
matter.
job creation.
Okay.
Accelerate job creation. Sorry.
Okay, I'll get to the next one in a moment. But in the meantime, the next topic is what we sort of plain speak, keeping our foot on the gas. So in that, we talk about the importance of continuing our marketing program, continuing our strategic relationships with partner organizations, both locally and of course regionally. Consider Medical Alley. I'm going to ask Lisa to talk about that in a moment. We will continue our close collaboration with investors and developers. This kind of work is work that takes multiple years. But I will just say anecdotally that there are a couple of examples of companies who have established themselves in Rochester who are meaningfully at the front line of working on coronavirus vaccine and treatment. And these are companies that would not be here but for this DMC initiative. And the kind of work that we're talking about when we refer to this sort of keeping our foot on the gas is the kind of work, the ground laying that has to happen to pay dividends months or even years from now. And Lisa, I just may want to give you the floor to talk about the Medical Alley as an example.
So you all know that we've been working very closely with different groups in the Twin Cities area, all in the spirit of making sure that this economic development initiative is a statewide initiative. And to do that, we want to make sure that Rochester and the Twin Cities, the distance between those becomes closer by partnering. And we've been partnering with Medical Alley recently to work very closely on an initiative, a startup initiative in Rochester in Discovery Square, where we will partner with that organization and other local, regional, and statewide organizations to actually create this startup environment right here in Rochester, working with our partnership with Medical Alley in particular. They've got a strong credibility throughout this state. And that's an example of something we can keep moving quickly because it fits perfectly in our wheelhouse and it makes a difference not just for Rochester, but the state of Minnesota.
You know, there's a really important reference Mayor Norton made in her remarks about us keeping our ability to look down the road. And I really love the relationship with Medical Alley because from the beginning, I've been really concerned that we're not leveraging the incredible ecosystem in healthcare in the metropolitan area and vice versa, and that from the outside this is seen as an ecosystem, and from here we're seeing them in isolation. So I think that's a very, very major move.
And it took a while, Chair Ryback. I mean, it probably took us 2 years to insert ourselves in the Twin Cities market to say we're kind of a big deal down here and we want to partner with you. And the Twin Cities businesses and organizations like Medical Alley, like DEED, have been very wonderful and are now embracing us as a partner and a strong partner, which really builds out the entire state strategy, particularly in this region.
Other comments on this? Did we get to your last slide now?
Yes. So so just to think, I would consider we are going to accelerate the work we've already been set up to do, and we're going to try to ensure that it's local and people here can benefit and jobs can be created. We're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas for the long-term work that is absolutely essential. And then finally, this last piece, I think, is where there is room for innovation and discovery in terms of where we fit in. So this last one we call Partner to Establish Economic Recovery and Resiliency, to establish an economic recovery and resiliency program. So we have, as the Mayor Norton mentioned, joined and part of a collaboration that was launched just last week and meets every day at 1 o'clock to try to innovate around how each of us can contribute to this more immediate crisis and opportunities that will come in the coming weeks. We've also borrowed from, as the Mayor also mentioned, Bloomberg, the relationship that she has and we have with Bloomberg and Bloomberg cities, and also our professional organizations, namely the International Economic Development Council, which has an incredible toolkit called Leadership in Times of Crisis. This is a toolkit that we have turned to look for guidance. It is designed around economic disaster recovery. And while it didn't necessarily contemplate pandemic, it did contemplate other types of economic disasters like flood or tornadoes or other natural disasters. And it provides a framework for us to think about how we can partner as a community, not only with our local partners, but also DEED and the governor's office and others, as we, as I say, come out of this economic coma that has been medically induced in many ways. And I have used that as a way to think about how we're addressing this. So on the left on this slide is what our key features of what an economic recovery and resiliency program might consist of. And again, this is not something we would do independently. We would only do it in partnership. And already some of those things that you see on that left side are already beginning. The Mayor mentioned the loan program that's being established. It has already been launched and applications are coming in. So it's a pretty immediate response. There are some ideas that are surfacing around reducing fees, perhaps around parking or liquor licenses. I don't want to steal the thunder of that because there's some work that is being done around that, but sort of immediate relief, while we are also developing other tools, workshops, and one-on-one training eventually. Again, we would not do this independently, but there are some assets that we would bring to that program, if you will. Our assets around what we call business transition and innovation. You know that we have, for example, launched in the past the prototyping initiative, the assistive tech challenge. These are examples of platforms we've created to help stimulate and spur innovation. And we know that businesses that innovate during this time will be the ones that will be the most successful. Working with Mortensen in Discovery Square, One Discovery Square for startup space. And this is, there will be a time when we can all come back to work in a physical space, and having startup space available might be additionally important. You mentioned earlier the Business Forward platform that we created with Heart of the City. It helped create a muscle for us to think about how we approach our work through the lens of business, business, not compromising businesses and the functions of businesses. And we think that platform, which of course was developed pre-COVID, but it really is a platform that can help us think not only further about Heart of the City, but also other construction projects and other ways in which we can work directly with small businesses. And then finally, just as a opener for a conversation, is what I would call resource reallocation. So are there things within our operating budget or capital improvement budget that we could pivot along this lines? I think yet to be determined. That's really a conversation you opened at the very beginning of this, Mayor Ryback. So
this is a really strong presentation. Can I just underline one point there that I think is especially important for us to be thinking about? It's especially toward this idea of looking down the road. When I look at startup space development, I think we should broaden that a bit to startup support, because space is absolutely a piece of it. But that may be a place where we should be looking at, can we be part of more aggressively helping to create working capital for that. I have no idea whether our tools would allow us to do that, but anything that I've followed, read, or anything about economic downturns is that they are often followed by a surge of new business innovation. People unfortunately lose jobs and finally do that risky thing they wanted to do because they might have a severance package or they might have nothing left to lose, or some incredible amount of change that's going on right now sparks a new idea, and if the right circumstances of space and capital are there, someone could move forward. And I think this is a place too where certainly so many people with all the different public and nonprofit folks working in economic development are going to have their hands very, very full on helping those who are losing jobs right now. One of the roles we could play would be to really be a strong champion of the person with a great idea who's going to be the next Charlie Mayo, I guess.
Okay, can I ask Kathleen, or just make a suggestion, I guess, to the group? Even currently, and what I heard from Kathleen is currently we may not have authorization to do that. And of course, as RT mentioned, we could, I'm not sure this is going to be the year to do it. Frankly, I'm not sure they're going to be in session long enough. Even if we don't, doesn't mean that the DC team, with all their expertise, couldn't and resources from side this work if it's not specific. See, you know, reallocating funds, maybe we can't do that right now, but it doesn't mean we couldn't start that initiative seeking support from other places. So I guess I just wanted to, and Kathleen, I don't know if that's a question for you, but does that sound reasonable? If we don't have authority to reallocate, it's okay for us to start a fund, for instance, or seek other support?
Mr. Chair, Mayor Norton, I hate to say it really depends on the project that we're talking about. I think that one of the many that the DMCC has is clearly market enhancing, the economic development growth of the district, et cetera. And even if the DMCC is encouraging other people to do, and as Chair Rybeck said at the beginning of the session, it seems to me that there should be a discussion with the deed folks about what they see in terms of what our authority can be and what it can be stretched to, if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification.
This is Paul Williams. That's a really good point, actually, and deed itself as a economic development stronger reach that front as well with some of their other programs, staying in contact with them and figuring out how we might better utilize some of their resources in different ways could also be another avenue into that. Right. I wanted to just make one kind of parallel point here about the importance of Mayo's continued investment itself. I know they've got their hands full and will have their hands full for a while, but obviously their investment in DMC and the sector is critical alongside of this. And so I'm just fully assuming that we're going to stay close to Mayo and get a gauge on, you know, what are their plans for continued investment. That obviously will be important alongside the investment of other, you know, that'll be coming to the area.
This is Jim. Can you hear
me? Go ahead, Jim.
I've got the video on one and the audio on another, so I kind of turn here. If you can't hear me, let me know. You know, from my perspective,
you always knew you could walk and chew gum at the same time.
Thank you. My perspective on all this from a county commissioner standpoint is obviously we need to keep the momentum that we've got with DMC going. That's very important. But we also need to be mindful. I see my role as being on this board of keeping the support items going, like being mindful of the housing situation. We're going to have people in, like we talked about before, in pretty tough situations, and then not to we're going to have also other people that are going to need additional housing, which we knew before this COVID thing. all came about. So there's other existing situations, you know, wages, that type of thing. I see the county in supporting what we've got going on and more in a support role, housing, wages, that type of thing. But we want to definitely keep the momentum going on you know, building downtown and doing what we've been doing. So does that make sense?
Jim, that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, to me, the way I've been trying to sort of make sense of what anybody does in this whole moment is to recognize it's a health crisis next to an economic crisis. The health has very immediate needs, and they're for a long time. The economic one has some immediate needs, but they're really going to grow over time. And part of what I hear you saying is that the county's role is much more dominant in the one on the health piece than ours. In fact, I don't hear us articulating that that's the place where we're going to be. And so that absolutely is a place where you are. I see us on the economic side and on looking further down this track. That seems to me to the sense of the conversation I'm hearing. Is that, members, is that seeming to be a consensus with you guys too for the moment?
It is for me.
Others?
Yeah, it is for me, absolutely.
Yeah, that's basically what I was trying to say. So thank you.
Jim Campbell, Mike Doherty, how does this sound to you? You might be on mute. Okay, well, look, you guys, Patrick and Lisa, really an outstanding presentation under some real tight time deadlines. Members, as an executive committee, I hope we are open to the idea that if we have to move on something, we may need to talk and act. I do think because we're really articulating a long view here, and I think the team has it in really good shape, I don't anticipate that coming immediately. And I think the idea is to keep our foot on the gas on the places that have just been articulated. So let's stay in touch between, but you guys, really nice job. And it's actually a pretty good pivot to the next.
Mayor, before we leave this, I would just like to publicly acknowledge the leadership coming out of the county and the city in this period of time, and the context in which you see our work is really in the context of tremendous and successful leadership, and then the partnership that's emerging from the Rochester Downtown Alliance, the Chamber of Commerce, READY, and the economic development staff at the has really been something to be proud of in this community. And I say that knowing that there's a lot of people in a lot of pain that happened very quickly and for which they were rightly unprepared for, and are looking for ways in which this community can support them in getting back on their feet. And we certainly want to be part of that process.
Those are really good words. I mean, when we see how much challenge there is out there, and then I hear some of the updates we got here from both the mayor and the commissioner, Rochester really seems to have its act together. So it's really great. Okay, let's pivot to a piece of really good news. We have had a really, really good year. As you know, each year we have to report to the state through DEED, its economic arm, how we're doing. And the report's going to be, we have done really well. So why don't I turn it over to you guys to fill in the blanks there.
Thank you, Chair Redback and members of the Executive Committee. So this conversation actually demonstrates that we are very aware of the challenges ahead in terms of this crisis. And I believe the next year will be a steep hill as we find ourselves going into the recovery mode. So the discussion we just had will really be helpful for us to set our sights on the future and what we can do today. That said, at this time of the year, we always acknowledge our annual investment figures. And Mr. Williams, you brought up a nice transition in terms of Mayo's investment as well as other private investment. We have 3 areas that we share with you so you can see how this investment number that we submit to DEED now after this meeting is pulled together. It's private non-Mayo dollars within the DMC district. It's private Mayo Clinic dollars within the city of Rochester. And then what we want to talk about today is really all of this and how it leads to community benefit. The punchline, so I'm not burying the lead, is that this past year, the private investment totaled, you can go to the next slide, totaled $272 million, which what this means is the total private investment in Rochester for DMC is approaching just shy of $1 billion. So we are on track and we are moving forward. This graph that you see in front of you is a graph that you have seen. It's our tracking chart. You can see as we track every year our investment. So you see that the trend line for DMC investment is of course going up since 2013. This year we are about $10 million ahead of last year's investments. So we are moving forward. Just to remind you that the blue numbers are Mayo.
Lisa, could you, I'm sorry, could you repeat that number because it broke up a little? We're ahead how much?
10 million more than we invested last year. So last year we brought in $262 million to the community of Rochester, and this year we're at $272 million, which is a very favorable number. I don't know of any communities of this size actually that are investing like that and are showing numbers like that. The blue on the graph in front of you is Mayo Clinic dollars, Mayo Clinic investment. So Mr. Williams, Mayo Clinic does intend to continue to invest, and we will stay very connected to Mayo, of course, with this initiative. The green is the other private investments, so the non-private investment dollars. Of course, it's too early to project in terms of what's going to happen next year since we're in the middle of this crisis, but I am very happy to actually submit this to you, the executive committee. But what we first wanted to do is bring two of our colleagues forward. The first one is Terry Spaeth. He's with the city of Rochester. He's the assistant city administrator. He's going to give you an example, a few examples of what that green entails. So what makes up our non-Mayo Clinic investment? So Terry, I don't know if you're on.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Good morning, Chair Ryback, members of the committee. These are just some examples of some of the projects that had a significant amount of investment during the 2019 timeframe. I think you're all pretty well aware of some of these projects that we'll be showing you, but the first example here is the Maven on Broadway project. That's the Titan and Opus project down on South Broadway, just south of 4th Street. And then it also has frontage along the 1st Avenue side. As you may recall, that's a 156 unit market rate apartment project with about 9,000 square feet of retail / commercial along the 1st Avenue corridor, which is essentially our community's main downtown retail corridor. This project had a total development cost of approximately $38 million, and as you can see there, about 18 related to the construction cost aspect of the project. Obviously, another one you're all very familiar with is the Berkman Apartments. That is the Lattice development project across from St. Mary's Hospital. That's approximately 372 market rate residential apartments, about 24,000 square feet of commercial space, and 560 plus structured parking spaces. This project had a total development cost of approximately $115 million, with about $59 million of that being the actual hard construction cost. This project is nearly completed. They're marketing units now. I believe the final construction should be completed here, I believe in the June timeframe, as I recall, the developer indicating. Along with those larger projects, we have other projects that made up a lot of that investment in 2019. Most of those were renovation or tenant fit-up type projects, and there are some examples shown on the screen here. The first in the upper left is our Wells Fargo project. That screenshot there is actually looks like coming from the new jewel box area, as we refer to it. That project was about a $26.5 million total project cost, and about 9.5 million of that, I think, was the hard construction costs associated with that. In the upper middle is an example of a renovation project whereby providing some affordable housing units. These are some of the short-term rental units just south of the government center along 3rd Avenue, about a block south of our City Hall building there. In the upper right, we've got the Hotel Indigo project. That was about a $40 million total development cost project, with about 15 million of that construction of renovation of the hotel itself. That project is nearing completion as we speak. And then there are several other projects there down in the lower left are examples of some renovation fit out spaces along the 101st Avenue building, or in the 101st Avenue building, along the Peace Plaza, and then tenant fit outs over in Discovery Square 1 building, and then obviously interior renovation of the Castle Community Building, the former Armory building downtown. So 2019 seemed to be a pretty solid year, and 2020 was certainly headed that direction pre-COVID, and I guess I'm not real sure where things are going to go there, but just thinking forward, in 2020, we have projects that started construction either late last year or early this year, and some examples of those are the Hyatt House Hotel project, the hotel project across from St. Mary's on the corner of 2nd Street and 11th Avenue, also the Town Place Hotel project that's on the corner of 2nd Street and 6th Avenue, and then the 324 1st Avenue project, which is down on the corner of 4th Street and 1st Avenue. So those are all in varying stages of construction, and hopefully they will be able to continue moving forward here in 2020 with those. And then also, as I think Patrick had pointed out earlier, we're working with the Mortensen development team and trying to move the Discovery Square 2 project forward as well. So I think that's really all I have for now, unless there would be any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Go ahead, Paul.
Just curious, actually, just about how and when we count towards that total development cost for the year. So do we count it when it's when the project is completed, or when they get their certificate of occupancy?
Well, we either ask the developer typically for sworn construction statements up to, for instance, at the end of the year, if it's not a completed project, or in some instances, if it looks like there may be just little work left to do to get that construction completed, we would hold off until that time. Otherwise, we just have to go off from the valuations that were assigned when building permits were issued.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So Chair Ryback, we'll move quickly to Mayo Clinic's update, just a few examples of some of the Mayo Clinic investment, and then we'll move on to our next topic.
Okay.
We have Doug Holtan, who's with Mayo Clinic Facilities, who leads our Mayo Clinic facilities. Doug, are you
Welcome,
on?
Mr. Holtan.
Doug, can you check your mute? Chair Ryback, maybe I'll just go through these slides very quickly.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
As examples, and if Doug pops back on, he can. I think most people are familiar with St. Mary's project, which is modernization and growth of our St. Mary's campus. A very critical moment in time for Mayo Clinic to update everything in the St. Mary's campus and St. Mary's building to the tune of about $48 million. Mayo Clinic is also investing very heavily in terms of the Mary Bry East Tower and the operating room fit up. So they are taking the operating room to the next level, if you will, in terms of destination worthy business for healthcare. They are becoming quite known for the new operating rooms of the future. And I think that actually fits very hand in glove with our destination worthy expenses and investment. And the final slide that Mayo has wanted to talk about was the Mayo fit up in One Discovery Square. So you all know that Mayo Clinic is leasing One Discovery Square, and their fit up dollars were about almost $9 million for this first building, which contributed greatly so far to the success of that building because people really want to be connected to Mayo Clinic.
Could you explain to us what fit up is? I'm sorry to ask, but
it's actually how they build out their own space. They're 30% of the space in One Discovery Square.
oh, I see. Okay, you're built out.
We had to do special. There were a lot of special details that needed to happen in this building so that we could get the right kind of equipment through the rooftop and be able to have the right kind of fit up in terms of inside the building so that we can do that kind of work. So with this, I want to submit these in numbers to the board or the executive committee, which submits it to DEED for certification.
Okay, so as you understand there, we have to formally submit this, and so we need a formal roll call on that. Do we have a motion to submit the letter?
So moved. Paul. Second.
Paul Williams moved. The second was
Jim.
Jim Beer. Thank you very much. Okay.
Just
go ahead.
One other comment. I just wanted to talk about, first I want to thank you for your leadership. Our board has been incredibly helpful as we are moving these projects and investments forward. The bottom line, or when you really make a difference and close the loop, if you will, is really the community benefit. All of these things that we're building, all the public spaces we're putting together, it's really what happens inside those buildings and around those buildings. And our community benefits greatly from this. The new jobs and the businesses coming into this community, you can feel the difference as we start to build out some of these spaces. The arts and culture programming, although we know we're in a situation right now where some of this is changing, again, we believe we will emerge and we will create spaces for just that, in creating safer streets and walkways for our pedestrians and for our bikes and our cars, and the mobility options that have really changed in Rochester just in the past couple of years with biking and with scooters and with buses. And some of these options that we are providing and being test sites for are really a great value to our community. One thing that's been getting a lot of, it's very positive for us is accessible public spaces. All the public spaces that we're creating, we are using universal design, and we are getting input from people who can help us create spaces that are accessible for all, particularly in a community like ours, and then creating the downtown vibrancy and viability that we've been after. So it makes a difference to this community. It looks like we're building a lot of things. We are investing greatly in this community, and the benefits are starting to show.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion on the table to submit the letter. Motion and a second. I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Norton.
Yes.
Secretary Williams.
Yes.
Treasurer Beer.
Aye.
I vote aye as well, so that passes, and it's great. The last point we have on the agenda is the 5-year development plan update. And as you may remember, during our budget conversation, this came up, and we are now at the mark where we are being asked to put forward a new development plan. I just think as we think about this, when this was drafted, I think they envisioned there would be one development plan, and then 5 years later you do another development plan. We've been in development planning the entire way along. And so I think as I turn this over to Lisa, I just think we should remember that we are certainly over delivering in my understanding of what the original idea was, because we constantly revised look for the market, but have also stayed within a consistent framework. So, so Lisa, why don't you take it away with just a top line overview of this that's coming up?
Thank you, Chair Ryback, and that's exactly right. That's the sentiment that we need to better understand and maybe get some direction from this group in terms of where we land and how far we go. I'm going to actually turn this over to Patrick Sieb and Catherine Malmberg, and we will try to do this in a very high level because basically we want you to know that there's baseline work that has to happen that we will continue to do. There's data gathering that we have to do. Then there's a framework that we need to build that needs to be flexible enough to accommodate the situation that we're in today with the crisis. And each of these, and that probably means the end product would be delayed. So Patrick, are you on? Have you found your way back here?
Yeah, so apologize, screen isn't keeping up with the content for the moment, but Chair Ryback, you set this up absolutely appropriately, which is that we are moving along with our 5-year update as a part of the expectation of the state legislature, and when they developed the law, and in their wisdom, they recognized that a development plan that was created in 2015 would not necessarily be current 5 or 10 or 15 years later, and requires a intentional 5-year update. During the past, now somebody else is manipulating the screen, so I'm in good shape. During the past 5 years, we have continued to update the development plan. We have not been static during these past 5 years. We have been continuing work around transportation, around public spaces, around streets and sewers and so forth. So we have not been static, and yet we do think it's important at this time to the extent appropriate, put a bow on the box, if you will, with respect to a clear update to the development plan. Of course, a lot of our scoping for this predated this current pandemic crisis, and so we are mindful of that in terms of adjusting expectations and adjusting timelines. So with that, and I am struggling a little bit here with the screen. Cody, are you driving this?
And Patrick, I think the good, we got the screen there, but if we don't get to that, that's okay.
Yeah,
we don't need to go out those points. Yeah. I think the points you're making are really critically important, so don't worry about that.
Okay. Well, I think the point we want to have a discussion with this executive committee at this time, we had intended to come to you today with a midstream progress report, and we are in fact continuing the behind-the-scenes work necessary for data collection, for assembling of documents and materials. And you have seen the timetable, the original timetable that we had created this with the aim towards having a proposed update at our May meeting. And while we will continue and believe it's appropriate to continue the background work necessary, we think that in light of this major disruption, that it would not be appropriate for us to full the plan in May.
I want to strongly reinforce this because rightfully the state has asked us to give them updates on the long-range view that we have. And it would be, I think, very imprudent of us to rush a 5-year plan in the next couple months when most folks don't even know what's going to be happening this afternoon, if you will. And so I think we should absolutely take the posture. This is a good and important piece of our work, but it is not something that requires you to drop these other really critical issues right now. I argue that we should do this planfully, come back to us with in May on where we're at. I'll continue to work with the team on doing this. And also for us to know that while the statute requires us to do a 5-year plan, it does not tightly define what that is. And so if we do happen to wind up having a conversation somehow with DEED about any other issues, help us to connect with our state partners between now and May as well, if we have the opportunity to really level set on this. It came up in our budget as well we budgeted a significant amount of money for this. I think it would be a very strong case for us to argue that we'd like to spend, say, less than we had budgeted on this. I know, as I understand, that came up in the city council, and I think Mayor, you and the others on the council are right to question whether we should spend an enormous amount on this. So let's get, in my mind, let's table this and be more planful and come back in May with a little more knowledge. So do other people get the issue that we're talking about and have a sense of where they want to go with this?
This is Paul. I couldn't agree more. And as a matter of fact, I would suggest that we ought to, kind of reassess where we're at in May, but I think pushing out even into the fall and perhaps talking to DEED and letting them know that we're pushing out even further. It's going to take several months for us for the whole community, for the whole state, for the country, to really get a handle on what is this new economy look like, and particularly as it relates to kind of Rochester and the DMC effort. So I couldn't agree more.
And I'll just add in, I agree with that. And I think I think what Paul was saying at the end, not just the state, but the whole world. The companies we're pulling in we're working with are not just local. We're trying to draw in new businesses to our area, and everybody is going to be at a standstill for a while. And again, I like this concept of, let's not set expectations too high and have expectations that we're not going to be able to meet. I'd rather just slow it down a tiny bit and ask DEED and whomever we need to ask for a little leniency here. So I support that.
Great. Other thoughts? Okay, I don't see us needing a motion on this as much as needing a sense of the body on this, and I think we have a pretty good one on that. Thanks for that overview. Okay, so let me just ask the final question. Any further discussion on any issues? Any new business? With that, if not hearing any,
move.
I'm sorry.
I was going to move.
Yeah.
To adjourn if you were ready.
Yes, that's good. Okay, do we need a motion on that, Kathleen? I'm not sure if we.
Yeah, there is a motion.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you. The motion. We have a to adjourn.
Second.
Who was that again?
Second, Jim.
Jim Beer.
Oh, Jim Beer. Thank you. You've been very consistent, Jim. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor? Vice Chair Norton.
Aye.
Secretary Williams.
Aye.
Treasurer Beer.
Aye.
I also vote in the affirmative, and so we are adjourned. Can I also, before we get off, just thank everyone for the flexibility. It's nice seeing into your homes and offices, and it's also I really want to thank the team who did some really exceptional work, and including Cody and all of the sorts of doing as well. So thanks very much, folks, and stay safe, and we'll talk later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be safe and well, everyone.